Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to my reading journey. Hope everything is alright to you, and I'm gonna finish the holding up the train. It's the last part of it, so let's do this. When old timers make a big haul, they generally go far away to one of the big cities to spend their money. Green Hands, however successful a holds up they make, nearly always give themselves away by showing too much money near the place where they got it. I was in a job in 94th where we get $20,000. We followed our favorite plan for a getaway. That that is doubled on our trail and laid off and laid for a time near the scene of the train's bad luck. One morning I picked up a newspaper and read an article with big headlines stating 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 that the marshal with eight deputies dep, deputies deputies dep, deputies deputies and a posse posse of 30 armed citizens had the train robbers surrounded in a mass quiet thicket quiet thicket on the Cimarron, and that is what a question of only a few hours when they would be dead men or prisoners. While I was reading that article, I was sitting at breakfast in one of the most elegant private residences in Washington City with a flunky in knee pants standing behind my chair. Jim was sitting across the table talking to his half uncle, a retired naval officer, whose name you have often seen in the accounts of doings in the capital. We had gone there and bought rattling outfits of good clothes and were resting from our labors among the nabobs. We must have been killed in that thicket, for I can make a fade, a faddy one, a faddy, a faddy, a faddy, a faddy with, a faddy v, a fide, a faddy with, a faddy with. That we didn't surrender. Now I propose to tell why it's easy to hold up a train, and then why no one should ever do it. In the first place, the attacking party has all the advantage. That is, of course, supporting that they are old timers, with the necessary experience and courage. They have the outside and are protected by the darkness, while the others are in the light, hammered into a small space, hammered and exposed the moment they show a head at a window or door to the aim of a man who is dead shot and who won't hesitate to shoot. But, in my opinion, the main condition that makes train robbing easy in the element of surprise is the element of surprise in connection with imagination of the passengers. If you have ever seen a horse that has eaten local weed, you will understand what I mean. Local weed. Should I try this? Um, what I mean when I say that the passengers are locoed. That horse gets the awfulest imagination of him in the world. You can't coax him to cross a little branch stream 2 feet wide. It looks It looks as big to him as the Mississippi River. That's just the way with the passengers. He thinks there are 100 men yelling and shooting outside when maybe there are only 2 or 3, and the muzzle of the 45 looks like the entrance to a tunnel, and the muzzle of a 45 looks like an entrance to a tunnel. The passenger is all right, although he may do mean little tricks like hiding a wad of money. Wad. WAD. In his shoe and forgetting to dig up until you jostle his ribs, some with the end of your 6-shooter. But there is no harm in him. As to the train crew, we never had any more trouble with them than if they had been so many sheep. I don't mean that they are cowards. I mean that they have got sense. They know they are not up against a bluff. It's the same way with the officers. I've seen Secret Service men, marshals, and railroad detectives fork over their change as meek as Moses. I saw one of the bravest marshals I ever knew hide his gun under his seat and dig up along with the rest while I was taking toll. He wasn't afraid. He simply knew that we had the drop on the whole outfit. Besides, many of those officers have families and they feel that they often to take chances, whereas death has no terrors for the man who holds up a train. He expects to get killed someday, and he generally does. My advice to you, if you should ever be in a holdup, it's to line up with the courts and save your bravery for an occasion when it may be of some benefit to you. Another reason any officers are backward about mixing things with a train robber is a financial one. Every time there is a scrimmage and somebody gets killed, the officers lose money. If the train robber gets away, they swear out and warrant against John Doe at ETLAL and travel hundreds of miles and sign vouchers of thousands on the trail of the fugitives. And the government foots the bills. So, with them, it is a question of mileage rather than courage. I will give one instance to support my statement that the surprise is the best card in playing for holds up. Along in 92nd, the Daltons were carrying out a hot trail for the officers down in the Cherokee Nation. Those were their lucky days, and they got so reckless and sandy that they used to announce beforehand what job they were going to undertake. Once they gave it out that they were going to hold up the MK and T flyer on a certain night at the station of Pryor Creek in Indian Territory. That night, the railroad company got 15 deputy marshals in Muskogee, and put them on the train. Beside them, they had 50 armed men hid in the depot at Pryor Creek. When the Katy flyer pulled in, not a Dalton showed up. The next station was Adair, 6 miles away. When the trail reached there and the deputies were having a good time explaining what they would have done to the Dalton gang if they had turned up, all at once it sounded like an army firing outside. The conductor and brakeman came running into the car yelling, "Train robbers!" Some of the deputies leaped out of the door, hit the ground, and kept on running. Some of them hid their Winchesters under the seats. 2 of them made a fight and were both killed. It took the Daltons just 10 minutes to capture the train and whip the escort. In 20 minutes, more they robbed the express car of $27,000 and made it a clean getaway. My opinion is that those deputies would have put up a stiff fight at Pryor Creek, where they were expecting trouble, but they were taken by surprise and located at Adair. Just as the Daltons, who knew their business, expected they would. I don't think I ought to close giving some deductions from my experience of 8 years on the Dodge. It doesn't pay to rob trains. Leaving out the question of right and morals, which I don't think I ought to tackle, there is very little to NY tackle and NY in the life of an outlaw. After a while, money ceases to have any value in his eyes. He gets to looking upon the railroads and express companies as his bankers, and his 6-shooter as a checkbook good for any amount. He throws away money right and left. Most of the time, he is on the jump, riding day and night, and he lives so hard between times that he doesn't enjoy the taste of high life when he gets it. He knows that his time is bound to come to lose his life or liberty. Liberty is like a freedom, right? And the accuracy of his arm, the speed of his horse, and the fidelity of his cider are all that postpone the inevitable. It isn't that he loses any sleep or danger from the officers of the law. In all my experience, I never knew officers to attack a band of outlaws unless they outnumbered them at least 3-1. But the outlaw carries one thought constantly in his mind, and that is what makes him so sore against life. More than anything else, he knows where the marshals get their records of deputies. He knows that the majority of these upholders of the law were once lawbreakers. Horse thieves, rustlers, highwaymen, and outlaws like himself, and that they gained their positions and immunity by turning states evidence, by turning traitor, and delivering up their comrades to imprisonment and death. He knows that someday, unless he is shot first, his Judas will set to work. The trap will be laid, and he will be the surprised instead of surpriser at a stick-up. That is why the man who holds up train picks his company with 1,000 times and care, with which a careful girl chooses a sweetheart. That is why he raises himself from his blanket of nights and listens to the tread of every horse's hoof on the distant road. That is why he broods suspiciously for days upon a jesting remark of for an unusual movement of a tried comrade, or the broken mutterings of his closest friend sleeping by his side. And it is one of the reasons why the train robbing profession is not so pleasant a one as either of its collateral branches, politics, or cornering the market. Good story. How to choose the right guys. All right. Thank you for joining me today, and see you tomorrow on the next story.